Hello and welcome. I am Advocate Aditi Sharma from the Institute of Legal and Management Studies. Today's session is about one of the most important pillars of the POSH Act, the Internal Committee or IC. The IC is the body within every organization that receives, investigates and decides on complaints of sexual harassment. Understanding how it works, its composition, powers, and the inquiry process is essential for employers, HR professionals, ICC members, and anyone who wants to understand their workplace rights. Let's get started. The Internal Committee, or IC, is the heart of the POSH framework within every organization. Section 4 of the POSH Act mandates that every employer with 10 or more employees must constitute an IC. It is not a choice, it is a legal obligation. The IC serves as the primary authority to receive and investigate complaints of sexual harassment. It has quasi-judicial powers, meaning it can call witnesses, examine evidence, and make findings that are binding on the employer. Think of it as a mini tribunal within your organization. And beyond legal compliance, a properly functioning IC is the clearest signal that an organization is genuinely committed to safe, dignified workplaces for everyone. Section 4, subsection 2 of the POSH Act is very specific about who must be on the IC. The first requirement is a presiding officer. She must be a senior woman employee at the workplace. She chairs the committee and leads all proceedings. Second, there must be at least 2 employee members, preferably people with experience in social work or knowledge of legal matters. Third, there must be 1 external member, typically from an NGO or someone with expertise in issues relating to sexual harassment. This external presence is crucial because it brings an independent, unbiased voice to the process. One more critical rule: at least half the members of the IC must be women. And a very important warning: if the IC is not constituted or is improperly constituted, the employer faces a penalty of up to 50,000 rupees under Section 26 of the Act. The IC has 2 categories of authority. On the left, its core functions. The IC receives written complaints, conducts inquiries, attends conciliation where appropriate, examines witnesses and evidence, submits recommendations to the employer, and can recommend interim relief, such as a temporary transfer, for the complainant while the inquiry is ongoing. On the right, its quasi-judicial powers. This is what makes the IC uniquely powerful. It has the powers of a civil court. It can summon any person, require production of documents, receive evidence on affidavits, and issue commissions for examining witnesses. These aren't administrative suggestions, they are legally backed powers that give the IC real teeth to conduct a thorough, fair investigation. Let's walk through the IC's inquiry process step by step. Step 1. The complaint is filed in writing within 3 months of the incident. The IC must acknowledge it. Step 2. Before a formal inquiry, the IC may attempt conciliation if the complainant requests it. However, no monetary settlement is allowed. Step 3. If conciliation doesn't happen or fails, a formal inquiry is initiated. Both parties receive notices and can present their case. Step 4. The actual inquiry. The IC hears both sides separately, examines witnesses, and reviews evidence, all while following the principles of natural justice. This must be completed within 60 days. Step 5. The IC submits its report with findings and recommendations to the employer within 10 days of completing the inquiry. Step 6. The employer must act on the recommendations within 60 days. If harassment is proved, action is taken against the respondent. If the complaint is found to be false, action can be taken against the complainant. The POSH Act is very specific about timelines, and these are not suggestions, they are legal requirements. A complaint must be filed within 3 months of the incident. The formal inquiry must be completed within 60 days. The IC must submit its report to the employer within 10 days of completing the inquiry. The employer must act on the recommendations within 60 days. And if anyone wants to appeal the IC's decision, they have 90 days to do so. Now let's talk about what happens when organizations don't comply. Section 26 imposes a fine of up to 50,000 rupees on employers who fail to constitute an IC. Repeat non-compliance can result in double the fine and even cancellation of business registration. If the IC fails to complete its inquiry on time, the aggrieved party can approach the courts. And if the employer ignores the IC's report, the affected party can go to the Labour Court or the High Court. The message is clear. Non-compliance has serious consequences. One of the most important and often underutilized powers of the IC is the ability to recommend interim relief during a pending inquiry. This is critical because the inquiry can take up to 60 days and the complainant may still have to work alongside the respondent during this time. The IC can recommend a temporary transfer of either the complainant or the respondent to separate them. It can also grant the complainant up to 3 months of paid leave. It can recommend restraining the respondent from supervising or reporting on the complainant. It can restrict access to digital systems or physical areas to protect evidence. And it has broad discretion to recommend any other measure it considers necessary. These interim measures can make all the difference in ensuring the complainant feels safe and supported while the inquiry proceeds.
3 landmark judgments have fundamentally shaped how the IC operates in India today. First, Vishakha vs. State of Rajasthan, 1997. This Supreme Court judgment is where it all began. It established the Vishakha guidelines directing all employers to create a complaints committee, the direct predecessor to today's IC under the POSH Act. Second, Aureliano Fernandez vs. State of Goa, 2023. This recent judgment exposed how widespread IC failures are across India: procedural lapses, untrained members, delayed inquiries. The Supreme Court directed all states to survey IC constitution and reaffirmed that natural justice is non-negotiable. Third, and most recent, Dr. Sohail Malik vs. Union of India, 2025. This landmark ruling expanded IC jurisdiction significantly. A woman harassed by someone from another organization can now file her complaint with the IC at her own workplace. The IC's reach crosses organizational boundaries. Together, these cases show the IC framework is not static, it continues to evolve. Having an IC on paper is not enough, it must actually function effectively. Here are 6 best practices every organization should follow. First, train IC members regularly. Annual training on inquiry procedures, evidence handling, and trauma-informed approaches is essential. Second, reconstitute the IC every 3 years. IC member tenure is limited to 3 years. Many organizations miss this and find themselves with a lapsed or invalid IC. Third, maintain IC independence. The IC must be free to operate without management pressure. Its findings cannot be overridden. Fourth, document everything meticulously. Incomplete records are the single biggest reason IC decisions get overturned in courts. Fifth, conduct annual awareness sessions. The POSH Act requires the IC to hold at least one awareness program every year for all employees. Sixth, file the annual report on time. This is a statutory obligation. The IC must report to the employer and district officer every year. Following these 6 practices will transform your IC from a checkbox into a genuinely effective institution. And that's a wrap on today's session on the internal committee under the POSH Act. We covered what the IC is, its legal mandate, how it must be composed, its powers, the step-by-step inquiry process, key timelines and penalties, interim relief measures, landmark case laws, and best practices for effective functioning. The IC is not just a legal checkbox, it is the institution that determines whether your organization's commitment to a safe workplace is genuine or superficial. A well-trained, independent, properly constituted IC can make all the difference. If you want to become a certified POSH trainer and learn how to set up and run an effective IC, check out our certificate program and train the trainer at ILMS Academy. The link is on your screen. Thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe for more content on workplace law and HR compliance. See you in the next one.